When Annie was doing laundry for her husband, she smelled perfume from another woman. In that moment, her husband's coldness suddenly made sense. She didn't cry or scream. She just wrote about it to Carl like she always did. She said a loveless marriage is like a dark grave. She wanted to leave the city for good and start over in a place called Bhutan. That night, she received a reply from Carl. Carl asked if she could take him with her. At that moment, Annie panicked. She wrote back saying she didn't know Carl well enough, didn't even know what he looked like, or what his name was. They were both familiar and unfamiliar. Carl saw she hadn't said no, and suddenly felt hopeful. He quickly wrote back to introduce himself, and asked if they could meet in person. The next day, Carl eagerly opened her letter. Annie said she was willing to meet, and would make her final decision then. Carl felt like he was floating, like he had found his youthful passion again. He even stepped up when his boss wanted to fire his apprentice. Carl took the blame for him, and begged the boss to give the apprentice another chance. Out of respect for Carl's decades of hard work, the boss reluctantly agreed. The apprentice was overwhelmed with gratitude, and invited Carl to his wedding as a senior guest. Annie's appearance gave Carl the ability to love and be loved again. Life suddenly felt warmer and more exciting. The next morning, Carl stood in front of the mirror carefully getting ready. He was about to meet the woman he loved. He couldn't afford to leave a bad impression. He noticed his beard had grown, so he rushed to the bathroom to trim it. But suddenly, a familiar smell of old age hit his nose, and it made him uneasy. On the bus, a young person called him uncle, and kindly gave him a seat. At work, he couldn't remember what he was about to say. All these things made him feel terrible. After work, Carl still went to the cafe as promised. He sat alone in a corner, too afraid to go forward. Annie sat in the designated spot waiting, but Carl never showed up. The higher the hope, the deeper the disappointment. The next day, Carl received an empty lunchbox, as if Annie was expressing her frustration. That evening, Annie received a letter from Carl. Every word in it was filled with helplessness. Carl said he was in a great mood that morning while shaving, but then he caught a familiar old man smell, the kind he used to smell on his grandpa and dad, but both had passed away long ago. On the bus, someone called him uncle, and that's when he realized the smell was his own. He had aged without noticing. He said he had gathered all his courage and gone to the cafe, but when he saw Annie looking young and beautiful, he knew he didn't deserve her, so he watched their connection fade away, not wanting to hold her back. Annie never replied, and never sent another lunchbox. Just like that, they lost contact.